I see a lot of confusion in spiritual spaces about what is meant by the word you.
What do you mean, you?
We like to say we are one with spirit, but we clearly walk through life experiencing life as a human being the vast majority of the time. So welcome to a new series called Metaphysics Made Practical. In this series, I'm going to be breaking down the fundamentals of metaphysics and spirituality in an attempt to make this very abstruse topic something easily digestible for those who are interested. So stay tuned for more. In this video, I'm going to explain to you the different layers of self. We are multidimensional beings, meaning there are many different layers and facets to our being. In reality, it is more accurate to think of yourself as a collection of selves rather than as a self. Self is a singular word, implying that the self is one thing, but you can't really be pinned down to one thing. If you're an athlete, someone could say, she's an athlete, and they're correct, but you wouldn't say that's all you are. So we're going to break down the different layers of self from a metaphysical perspective and try to give you a lay of the land for what it means to be a living being. We'll start off with the two big distinctions, the two ends of the spectrum. It is simple enough to explain it as God and human, or the ego and the true self, God and the Son of God, creation and creator, conscious and unconscious, intention and manifestation, discarnate and incarnate. There's a million different ways you can split it. This distinction will take you quite far enough. Most are not open to the idea that they could be more than just the brain which commands their body. But if you truly open yourself to this idea, the entire universe explodes with possibility. I'll start by calling the two distinctions the capital S self and the lowercase s self while I explain them. So, the capital S self. What is the capital S self? This is who you really are on the most fundamental level. This is what remains when everything you have and everything you believe is stripped away. At its most foundational level, it is consciousness itself. Think of the person you were 10 years ago. You would likely say, that's a different person. Yet there's also some sense within you that you're also the same person. What is that sense? And how can there be such a clearly felt distinction between the two? What is it that remains unchanged through all the twists and turns of life? And what does, in fact, change through all the twists and turns of life? As I've already stated, what remains the same is consciousness itself. The extremely simple and absolutely fundamental sense that I exist. Has there ever been a moment you can remember wherein you felt as though you did not exist? No, it's impossible. If you weren't existing, then you wouldn't have had that experience. Very simple. You may throw away all of the concepts in your mind. You can reject and distance yourself from your job, your friends, your family, even your very name. Yet, you cannot distance yourself from experience itself, from consciousness itself. You either fully exist, or you fully don't. And there is no in between. This is the essence of God. God is existence, and God is consciousness. This is the capital S self. So the lowercase s self. What is the lowercase s self then? It is everything that is layered and stacked on top of the capital S self. I'll call these true self and false self now for ease of speaking. The true self is the blank canvas upon which the false self paints. To be the true self means to exist, but without any distinctions or qualities to you. This is why the false self is necessary for life on Earth. It gives meaning and direction to the omnidirectional, omnipresent, undefinable true self. The false self is what has beliefs, relationships, a job, a purpose, an identity, and so on and so forth. These things are all expressions of reality, but are not the ultimate reality itself. These things allow for the making of meaning, but are not meaning itself. They give meaning by providing the unindividuated true self content with which to compare and contrast itself. So, this is what people mean when they talk about polarity or living in a dualistic universe. And let's talk about polarity for a moment, because it's essential to understand it. We're just trying to understand the fundamentals of what's going on here. So very simply, here's why polarity is necessary. Let's do a little thought experiment. Say you're God. As God, you are all that exists. And there is no separation or distinction between parts of yourself. You are everything. We know God, the universal supreme God, the monad, to be omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, omnibenevolent. There's another O, there's 5 O's, I'm missing one. But you understand, you get the idea. You are this radiant, loving cloud of everythingness, and you know everything, for you are already all that is. Now, here's the key. When there's nothing else in existence to compare yourself with, it creates a problem for true self-understanding. Why? Because something can only be fully understood when a subject-object relationship exists. Like, for example, you can't tell what the Earth, the planet, actually looks like when you're standing on it. Only when you're 1,000,000 miles away can you look back and see how the planet is actually shaped, and what qualities are truly observable and visible. The necessity of this subject-object relationship is one of the ontological reasons for the existence of creation. One of them. More videos on that in the future. Okay, so to bring it back to the false self, it's important to know that it has no power of its own. All of its power is borrowed from the true self, from Great Spirit. This is why I like to use the word life as a substitute for the word God. Life is what lives, breathes, and moves all things in the universe. Life is what provides the foundation that all beings build and paint and experience through. Okay. So, man, I wish I had a whiteboard. I need to bring a whiteboard in here. I have a whiteboard. Give me a second. Okay. It's not like this is going to be such a simple drawing. I mean, I don't know. Am I going to keep this in the video? I don't know. Can you see that? Okay. So picture this spectrum. We've got ego on one end, God on the other end. Ego, this is a representation of energy. And over here, it's just very slow, very dense, and also very low energy. But as we get over here closer and closer to God, man, I totally screwed this up. I need to do this again. Okay. Cut that. Okay, so it's just a very simple spectrum. I don't even need to draw this for you to be able to understand it. But on one end, you have ego, and on the other end, you have God. And this is energy of consciousness. Over here in ego, you see that? It's just very low, very slow, very dense. But as you begin to go into intermediate stages, which we'll get to, it gets to become faster and faster and higher in amplitude until you have just this going on all the way over in God. Just everything is happening, right? So now that we have, I'm going to come back to this. We have the two ends of the spectrum covered, true self, false self, and we're going to break it down further because I like making things complicated. And if you're still watching, I bet you do too. So here we go. Okay, so further distinctions of the self. Spiritual community clearly believes that they are more than human, often speaking of souls and such. This is not unique to the New Age / spiritual community, but it is an ancient concept that is fundamental to every religion as well. Yet, a lot of the things spiritualists and religionists talk about are clearly concepts that are less universal than the true, formless, prime, infinite creator God. People speak of souls, past lives, reincarnation, pagan gods, star seeds, and so on. So let's dive into this concept. Let's explore what's in between the two ends of this spectrum. By the way, the spectrum's infinite. It doesn't end with God, and nor does it end with ego. But we're just keeping it simple today. Universe is infinite, if you didn't know. So that means there's no end. Okay, so we have the spectrum. On this one end, total ego. I need somewhere to hold this. You have total ego, which is total identification with form. And on the other, you have total God, which is complete identification with the fundamental substrate of existence, that being consciousness. Since it is a spectrum, that implies there are intermediate states of identification between human ego and the absolute. Much like the electromagnetic spectrum, the lowest frequency band, ego, which would be radio waves on the electromagnetic spectrum, possesses far less energy than the highest frequency band, which we call gamma rays. I'll probably just put a picture of that up. That'll be a lot better than this. Oh god. Okay, so for the rest of this, I'm going to break down the self into 3 layers. Got human self, we have the soul self, which will be in the middle here, and the monad self. There are ways to break down identity further, and there's no truly right way to explain this, but I just want to make this as simple and understandable as possible. So, put soul in the middle here. Okay. So, level 1, ego. The ego is a very low frequency. It is the human, the body. Until you have a direct experience otherwise, you will identify as the body or the mind, or both, or This is the default state of a human being, identification as the body. This is the person. This is Eston. That's my name. That's my egoic persona. And what's important to understand, as I've been explaining already, is the ego can do nothing by itself. This is what was meant by Jesus when he said in John 5:19, "Very truly I tell you, the Son can do nothing by himself. He can do only what he sees his Father doing, because whatever the Father does, the Son also does." He's explaining a profoundly fundamental metaphysical concept. That is, that the person, the ego, can do nothing by their own power. Anything a person does is only possible because the power of life, God, moves through them. Think of a character in a theater play. Metaphorically, God is the actor behind the character for this metaphor. So the character can be experienced by the audience. They see this, Sweeney Todd, whatever, and but if you said the character is more real than the actor who's playing them, you'd be checked into a mental institution. That doesn't mean the character doesn't have reality, but the reality he has is only that which is imbued into him and moves through him from the actor portraying him. The character is being animated by a greater force than himself. This is a great, perfect analogy for the relationship between God and creation. So, okay. Level 2, the soul. The soul is an intermediate frequency. It's somewhere in between here. The soul is what carries on between lives. This is what incarnates into a human being. This self is a far less diluted emanation of God, which you can understand, looking at this. God is just maximal energy, right? The soul is great energy, much greater than that of the ego. But it's an intermediary. You understand that. The soul contains memories of all past lives and is a far more complete self than the human self is. The soul is a timeless, essentially immutable construct that changes lifetimes the way a human changes clothes. As I was talking about the ego, I said it only has the power which passes through it. So think of your awareness, or think of the soul and the ego as a window for consciousness /life /God to pass through. As you increase the size of your window, which is synonymous with raise your frequency, raise your vibration, it's just increasing the amount of consciousness that passes through you, and therefore more God can pass through you as you increase the size of this pass-through window, which feels really damn good, by the way. The pass-through window of the soul is orders of magnitude larger than a human's can ever be, and an ego's can ever be. It is still just a window, however. The actor analogy still applies, just to a lesser extent. Now, level 3, the monad, God, Creator, Great Spirit. This is the highest frequency. All that is. It is the Creator. It is ineffable. It is beyond comprehension and concepts. The monad, I'll try to keep using that word for consistency. The monad can only be truly accessed when all layers of identity are released. This is what people call the state of enlightenment, because the monad is what remains when everything is stripped away. It is the invisible force which silently pervades and animates all realities. Those who do not wish to just sit there in full lotus position, totally blissed out from God realization, and wish to partake in worldly affairs may still access monad energy while inhabiting an egoic persona. This is done by cultivating the emotions of love, joy, peace, and so on, and maintaining them in your predominant attitude. Because that has been the way of the sages in times past, in ages past, of quiet contemplation and an entire life sort of lived in a cave. But it is indeed a new age, and The world needs those people more than ever to partake in the world. All right, great. So what the hell do you do with all this information? Overall, my intention with this video was just to lay out a basic roadmap of consciousness based on my experience and study, so that you can have a more holistic understanding when people talk about all these wacky concepts that spiritual people speak of. And also so that I can have something I can point back to when I'm speaking of wacky metaphysical concepts in future videos. So, let's talk about the interplay and kind of bringing this all together. So this video was mostly just a mental masturbation exercise, unless you choose to apply this understanding to your life. As a conscious being, understanding the multidimensional nature of oneself is to begin the journey of self-mastery. And when you master yourself, your internal world, that naturally leads to mastery of the outer world as well. And who doesn't want that? Imagine being able to create your life just like a video game, like it's Minecraft. Who doesn't want that? Let's go. So that's why this is important. Learning to hop between identities, these different levels, is a critical, required skill to live an authentic, full, aligned, and enjoyable life. And simply knowing that you can is half the battle. When you forget that you have direct access to God, it is easy to become fearful, angry, and depressed. The whims of the material world and of your ego and your emotions will toss you about without compassion. You will be a victim rather than the creator. Let me tell you my experience. It seems pretty clear that the monad self is what we all want to get to. If you've ever managed to fully clear your mind in meditation or had any kind of mystical experience, you understand the unfathomable joy and love and peace that exists behind all our worries and strife. For a long time, ever since I first tasted that, I just wanted to get there and stay there. To go live in a cave in internal bliss for the rest of my life. But as I've grown, I've noticed another desire. That is to share this bliss with the world. To help my brothers and sisters understand that there is more to existence than the humdrum of modern society. One critical lesson I learned is that, paradoxically, the more I embrace and attune to and love my humanity, the more I am able to access God states. And I'm not the first one to discover this, but I had to learn it for myself firsthand to fully apprehend it. As Carl Jung stated, no tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. Ascension is not simply a process of moving upwards in this frequency, moving right on that spectrum towards God and greater amplitude. It includes that, but it is also a descension process of going into this human experience and into the body, into what you truly feel, your emotions, into the experiences that you have the glorious opportunity to experience in this brief little human lifetime. The more you attune and celebrate and love all of that in the good and the bad, the vicissitudes and the waves that keep crashing down upon you, in the pain and in the pleasure, the more of that you can just eat and enjoy and feast upon, the more you will be able to access these God states and begin to feel this this vibration of just glory. There's no words for it. It's ineffable love and peace and joy all at the same time. So, in conclusion, I invite you to open yourself up. Embrace all of the multidimensional facets of who you are. Don't deny any of them. To get caught up in any particular identity means to stagnate. This is the antithesis of becoming actualized. Be flexible. Be versatile. If you feel you're a starseed, cool. But don't make that your whole persona. Telling everyone, Grand Rising, I am Noctuk, Rainbow Unicorn Indigo Child of the Arcturians. No thanks. Be open to more. If you feel you're just John Doe, and just like working on trucks, that's cool. That's perfect. But be open to more. If you feel that you are the incarnate avatar of the one infinite creator itself, cool. Great. But be open to the fact that you are also human. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.